All right, I'm here today with my good friend, Jen Randle. And when I say good friend, I mean that most of the time sincerely. But Jen and I are, I don't know how you would explain our um, relationship. We like to go back and forth because she's a Raiders fan. I'm a Chiefs fan. And for this year, at least, I can brag that they won the Super Bowl, so we've got that.
You killed us.
Yeah, that's right. So, but hey,
I almost cried though the other day when I was looking on ESPN or something. I was looking something up and I saw the full name. I can't say it. It's just going to be the Raiders. I can't.
yeah. So, Jen Randle works for the Developmental Disabilities Council of Oklahoma, and she is the youth director. Youth, is that what it's called? Yeah, look. She works with youth. Transition is her main thing, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. Jen Randle, let's start this by telling how we met. I remember meeting you at Partners in Policymaking, August of 2012.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah. And little did I know what I was getting into with that friendship. So.
Ouch!
No, I'm so glad I did. What do we need to know besides that? Do you remember meeting me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's hard because, like, I remember classes, but I don't know if I remember certain, because even, like, in partners when I speak, I forget, like, I get really nervous. And so it's like, I just, okay, deliver the content. So I don't even know if it's kind of like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was in with Ellen Hefner,
Wow.
the Sam Jenkins, Kelly,
Yeah.
Marquez, the Franks.
Was that the first year that we were at?
We were at the junior league.
Oh, were we at the junior league that year?
Yeah.
Was that the year? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so you were in the back in the corner. I remember that, and I remember you being introduced. And I do know that Jen Randle is a sci-fi fanatic. Would you say that's true?
So yeah.
Yeah.
That's just fun. Yeah, I guess it goes with the whole, I mean, that hope part, Star Trek, I feel like, is more, I really like Star Trek a little. I like Star Wars and Star Trek and all that, but Star Trek is more hopeful, I feel like. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 I don't like
So,
either one of them. So if you say so, I'm going to go with it. I'm not.
X-Files?
Not really.
I'm an X-Files junkie. If you ever want, I got all the DVDs.
I'll let you know. I'll keep you informed. I'm just not a sci-fi guy, but that's me. That's my thing.
Okay.
I tell people I don't have an imagination, so I can't.
Yeah, you do, because look what you've done.
Well, let's talk about you. Tell me how you got started in advocacy. What's your story?
Here's my story. See, I knew these were coming because I kind of cheated and I was like, oh, I need to go watch the videos again, so I knew what was coming. Um, I'm not really sure. It just kind of happened. I don't know if that makes sense. My first biggest experience, I think, that I had that really, I mean, I didn't think of it as advocacy, but now when I look back in it, I think it was. And I think it was an experience. I know it was the experience. Other friends of mine, um, we always talk about it. We always call it the Jeanette experience. And so when I was in college, I went with the major of child psychology. And then dawned on me that to really do a lot with it, I have to go more school after I get my bachelor's and then after you get your master's. And well, my scholarship ends at a certain point, right? And so I was like, well, I need to rethink this because I got to make some money. Um, I guess I didn't choose very well for money because I went with special education. But what sold me, what I knew that I was okay in that field when I worked at Camp Jened, which by it was a different focus than when you saw it like at Crip Camp in the documentary. By then, it was for adults with disabilities, and I'll never forget the day at Southwestern. There as a camp fair, and so all these camps were there recruiting. And I had talked to the camp director, Gary Baker, for quite a while, and then I needed to go take a test or I had class or something, and came back, and he wasn't there. But we were going to talk, so I was just kind of mingling with other camps, and I was mingling with this one camp that I'll never forget. I swear it said air con. It was in Texas, but I swear it said air conditioning. I was like, well, maybe I should apply for that one because at least it's got air conditioning, right? I mean, but he came back and he saw me, and when I went to go visit with him, he was like, "So did you change your mind?" I was like, "Oh no, 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 no." So he took a chance and hired me, and I went up there summer of '89, and thankfully with Facebook, I've been able to connect back with Gary and others. And I mean, we always talk about, or we'll share pictures. Oh man, the pictures you get. Oh, that was in my, I don't care. I'd tell my hairdresser, just do whatever. What do you feel like today? And during the summer, he's like, well, let's do a spike since you're going to be gone all summer. Let's grow a tail. Let's do this. Okay. But wow, that summer and then 5 other summers were absolutely amazing. And now that I think about it, I think it's the campers that were the counselors. Learned so much about just people, just wanting to have a good time. We would do arts and crafts. We were in charge of, I mean, everything. Um, Counselors and campers, we slept in different cabins, but we would have like, um, each counselor would stay up, at least one person. Sometimes there might be two, depending on needs. But we would stay up all night for each cabin. I think my first night duty, I had a skunk. I was out on the porch, and it's in New York in the Catskills, so it was getting cold. So I had my blankets on, probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, and my friend Vince walked by and was like, "Don't move," and I was like, "Huh?" Because I was like, "Oh God, don't fall asleep." He's like, "There's a skunk under you," and I pulled all these blankets up, and it was just sitting right underneath me because I had my feet up on the porch. I was like, oh, doo-doo-doo. Finally I had raisins and peanuts that someone had brought me from the dining hall. Started shooting them a little bit further, and finally he went for them and left. Um, but
Wow.
I mean, Camp Jened, wow. I,
So explain for people that don't know, this is Camp Jeanette. For the record, on the 30th anniversary of ADA, I sat and watched Crip Camp finally, and it was great. But yeah, tell everybody what Camp Jeanette and Crip Camp is a little bit.
so Camp Jened, I guess originally it was in, I think, Hatcher, New York. But when I worked there, it had moved locations to Rock Hill, which is 15 minutes from Monticello, New York, if you know where that is. Not far from Middletown, right on 17, Route 17 in New York, in upstate New York. But originally, I guess it had started, we didn't really know the history like the documentary shows. The documentary, I was just like, man, I think it would have been fun to know all that history. But I don't know because I was a college kid,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
here's
hanging
what's
out. So I don't
interesting.
know.
Here's what's interesting to me, Jen, as if you watch that, the kids. So for those of you who don't know, and she was getting into that, and I interrupted, but the 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 self advocates, I'll say, that were involved in Camp Gen Ed, the movement that they started and the things basically led to ADA today as we know it. And it was
Yeah.
that core group that was a huge part of what we have today. And that's amazing to me.
Yeah, I think it was a neat story to hear. I oftentimes tell people it's just a beautiful story at how they met. I mean, it's friendship. It's relationships. I mean, even now I'm like, ah, that they stayed together. I mean, even okay, that was in New York. They went to school over here on the other side. You know, I mean, it's a really, I think, a really cool story.
Yeah, they
Uh,
traveled to Berkeley, and then they went to New York City to advocate, and then they go to the Capitol. And it was that group of kids that just happened to go to a camp. Um, yeah,
yeah,
so
they were just teens. I mean, this year we showed a documentary at the Youth Leadership Forum the first night, and it was really. I thought if we showed it first, and then later we'll have Michael Beers, who does an awesome job speaking about disability history and culture and bringing that. But I just felt like them seeing it first, and then Michael Beers kind of like on the bookends, you know. I think it just really did well. But you could, I swear, you could see if you could see it, you could see the just the pride that they had. Our students that went through the Youth Leadership Forum seeing the history. I mean, no one ever talks about it. You know, I mean, no, we don't know that. But it's just like when I worked there, it was I don't know. I'll have to look back. I haven't even. I'll have to look to see who owned it at first. When I went there, the United Cerebral Palsy Association in New York State owned it, and it was for adults with disabilities. I want to say, was it my second year? We had weekends for kids, which, oh my gosh, they were a blast. Um, and just the things you learn about just people, you know, um, at camp. I'm trying to think, and the camp director Gary was so good at reading people, you know, and it was kind of scary because I remember one year I was sports director and we were playing, I think we were playing a big game of soccer. But the way we played soccer, we had the earth ball. We also had other balls out there too. So it didn't really matter. We were just playing soccer, right? Um, and at one point, I looked up and he was sitting up on the hill. And of course, oh my gosh, that's the boss. Oh, you know, so I'm like, okay, make sure everything's safe, make sure we're all having a good time. And then, like 10, 15 minutes later, he's gone. And I'm like, where'd he go? You know, didn't really say much, you know, just real quiet. But just the campers, I wish I knew where, well, every now and then, I know on Beth Mount's page, who's real big in the futures planning and person centered planning, I've seen a couple of pictures of some of them, and I'd like, oh, that's so and so, you know. So it's always kind of fun to see that. Um, but I mean, we've had we had. I remember Fred showed us. He wanted us to see the Willowbrook video, and we were like, "Okay, we're done. We don't need to see the rest." And he's like, "No, you have to see it." You know, demanding that we watch the whole movie or documentary about Willowbrook, so that we had that understanding. So, yeah, just we've had our share of, I guess, celebrities, you know, like Dustin Hoffman. We have a few of our campers, you know, Dustin Hoffman would talk to about it, you know, about um, their experiences as a person with a disability. We had travel camp, um, and we had one of the campers that we had travel camp. We would take 10 to 11 campers in different places. Like we had trips to Atlantic City, the Finger Lakes area, Boston, Washington, D.C. And I remember the trip to Salem and Boston. One of our campers, she was in Awakenings, and we actually had two that I knew in Awakenings. Do you remember that movie with Robin Williams?
vaguely, yeah, yeah.
It's awesome. She was like, "Yeah, I got $500 to say hi." It's like, well, that's not fair. I need some of that, you know. She kind of yelled at me. Well, fun, but the first time I supported her eating, because she was like, "You have to hold my head tighter," because I would have to stand behind her, because to help her control things, and support her that way. She's like, "No, I'm going to choke." I was like, "Okay, I don't want to hurt you." But so they helped us figure everything out. Um, so like I had said, I didn't realize that that was probably my first. No one ever called it advocacy. We were just having a good time at camp. Um, and then I came back and I got my degree, started teaching students who had special services, and I, in between that, I had taken a sabbatical and worked in New Jersey for another summer camp year round, and then came back. And when I came back, I started working in the same district, but for students with more significant disabilities. And through that, I don't even remember how I met Chuck Roberts. I don't remember how I met him or got connected with him. I'll have to ask him because I don't even remember. But he and a friend of his did a job club. And so I was like, well, come out and do mine. Maybe I heard about the job club or something. And invited him out. So for 2 weeks, he and his friend did a job club with my students. And they did like all sorts of different activities with them, interviews. And then through that, we started Students First at the school, and they ran for their own, kind of like People First. They ran for their officer elections, and they studied volunteering, and then they were like, okay, well, these are 3 volunteer opportunities. What do you want to do? So when you go out to, if you go out to Dream Night, and you go out on the jungle gym, if you look up some of the tall peaks, I had some students help make those peaks. So
So
they really kind of learned that.
so tell us real quick about Dream Night.
Oh, so Dream Night is fantastic. Usually it's the first Friday night in June, worldwide. Worldwide, there's zoos. I believe it started in Holland. And then first Friday night in June, there's zoos all across the world that open up. There's open up for families who have a child with a disability, or I think they say also with a healthcare need. Um, and what's fun is it's just for them. It's just for those families to have a good time. So our zoo, or the Oklahoma City Zoo, um, does so many cool things that night. I mean, the admissions for free. They always work to get a dinner so that families can have dinner while they're there. What else? Pictures, games. The trains are free. And it's not really publicized because I don't want it a media event. They just wanted a family event, which I think is even cooler. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
But
how did you get into
so
DDE Council?
yeah, so Chuck was gave me a brochure and said, "You need to take this," and it was partners. So it's Chuck's fault. It's all Chuck's fault that you guys have to listen to me now.
So I
uh,
love Chuck, by the way. That was one of my favorite people that spoke during Partners. In fact, I use him still when I do disability acceptance training and explain how he worked his way into a job at OU. And
yep. Yeah, I always something that, and I like him to talk when he talks to the students at YLF. Um, to he didn't realize I don't thought he never attended his IEP meetings. He didn't know he could. I just think I want people to know, you need to go so you can know what your goals are, or tell them, wait, that's not what I want to do. Time out. Don't push me that way, you know, and stand up for what you want. So I took partners, and wow, right? Um, I missed Al the first year. I had to get in the second year because I had a volleyball. I was the bus driver and assistant volleyball coach, which means you do all the stats. And I remember walking in my first night, and I'd been driving the bus because it was the volleyball tournament. So I had like coach stuff, you know. I'm all sweaty from the gym, and I'm like, okay, I got here for dinner. And then Anne during dinner gives me and a couple others that were late the speech about, you gotta make sure you're professional dress and all this. And I'm like, oh gosh, I screwed up. Oh, I'm gonna get kicked out. They didn't kick me out, thank you. But yeah, so wow, the speakers that you hear, and what's cool is, I mean, they're your partners. It's not just okay, you're taking this class. I don't know how many times I'll email them and say, hey, what do you think of this? You know, or happy birthday, or and they get back to you. So it really is. It's all about partners and relationships. Um, and then I just kind of stayed on, in contact with the DD Council. And then when was it? 08? I think it was 08. Um, they they thought it would be a good reason to offer me a job. And I don't know where Ann got that, but cool. It was hard because I always think about I'm still a teacher, and being in the classroom, and I miss that. But I also still I get to still teach. So, but I teach more than just students. So,
Yeah, so go into what is YLF?
so YLF, that was kind of my biggest thing that I do for them, and it's the Youth Leadership Forum, which originally it started in California in 1992, and slowly different states have picked it up. It's not national. It's not 50 states, sadly. We have probably about 20 or so states that have this model, and it's all about really just helping our high school students with disabilities think about life after high school. It gives them that opportunity. Much like I feel like it's that almost like that crib camp experience. They're teens, just like the teens in crib camp were, and they don't have their parents at camp, and they just get to be high school students. If they need a support, then we'll figure that out. I don't think any kid couldn't go to YLF. We'll just figure it out how we need, what we need to do, just like anything. Just like if I were going to get a job, I got to figure out what I'm going to do and how to do it. Um, and we talk, I mean, parents bring their kids. We stay right on the college campus if the virus will go away, or we'll try virtual again. But usually the parents will drop them off. And I usually say, take a good look because you won't see the same kid when you come get them. And it really is true. I mean, they just, that environment with them, just, being able to be with peers their same age, get to meet some of the people, much like Partners brings in speakers. We bring in, some really awesome speakers that grew up with a disability as well. One of the big things that we try to get them to realize is we believe in that leadership by example, and so we want our alumni, they come back, some of them year after year, because they want to help, they want to give back. Um, so I'm excited excited and a little anxious because I don't know what we're going to find out. But with the long-term outcome study for YLF, um, I'm excited to hear. I know it makes a difference, but what if it doesn't really? I mean, is it good money? Hopefully it is. We'll find out. We'll see
Sure. I'm sure it
what
is.
was good. So, but I was talking to Dr. Cantley, not too long ago, about it, so it should be good. I'm excited. I'm like, okay, just get it done now. Let's go. Come on.
We actually had, because of you and YLF, we had Mike Beanie on um, a while back. Yeah, did you get to watch that one?
I'm not all the way through it. I'm like, I think with his, I'm like a fourth because I like stop it and I might jot something down. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I loved it. I thought that was one of my
like
favorite ones. But
he's one of our speakers.
yeah, and you introduced us at Transition Institute. So you and I work together close on a lot of things. YLF, I've helped you with one of those. I'd like to help you with more, but
Hmm.
we'll get there.
Yeah,
Um,
or even online stuff too.
yeah. But you've come and helped me with our social group that we've
Oh,
started, and you help me every year with that, and I appreciate it. But we've also gone to, because what we're working with on the social group and what you're working with on YLF is just transition, and so
it's life.
yeah, we met up at the Transition Institute, and Mike Vini happened to be the keynote, I think, because of you, and so you introduced us, and I thought that was a man. He was very impressive. I mean, I just his story alone is impressive, but his
Mhm.
outlook on mental health and
Yeah,
self care is pretty amazing, and so
yeah.
um, I
That's
thought that
that's
was
why
good.
yeah, I like having him at YLF. It's hard at YLF because there's so many things you want in it, but it's only 5 days, you know, and so it's hard to pack everything in, and yeah, gotta
Yeah.
figure it out.
So one of your favorites, and I got to sit in on his this year, was Laderick Horn.
What do you think?
I'm sold. Just great. Yeah, I want to get an interview with him, but I don't know if that'll happen or not. We'll.
Cool. Have you
Um,
contacted him?
I have not. I need to get with you, and we'll see if we can make that happen. Um, but YLF, what you're saying, I think, is life changing. You have YLF students that are now on the DD Council because of the things that they've learned there. They've gone to partners because of the things they've learned there. So whether you know it or not, it is impactful. It already has. They're great self advocates. They're not just self advocates. They're advocates now for everyone. So
Right.
in that's pretty amazing. Tell me about mentors.
Wow. It's always a, well, I guess, I mean, I definitely have to say Gary Baker from Janed. Just, I didn't realize, I guess I guess that was probably my first thing about maybe relationships and the importance of them, but I didn't realize it then. Mark Bynack, who I work for at a different summer camp. Um, yeah, it's kind of the same thing, just relationships. There's an activity that we do at this camp. It's called Lohican, and or the Camp Lohican, and it's an all day thing, but it's called well, no, what is it called? Ah, I think it's Camper Counselor Day. I think that's right. And so campers will write a speech, and they will give a speech like during lunch or dinner, and then they're voted on with a ballot. But they're running to be a counselor, or some of them they want to be the camp director for a day, and so they'll kind of shadow. Um, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so much work as a trying to put it all together. I'm just like, oh, making sure. Okay, you want to be on it too. Okay, get them on there. Oh, they didn't do a speech. I'll just add them anyway. So that they, you know, um, and just making sure that everyone gets a chance. And then I think I was in the golf cart, in Mark's golf cart. We were going somewhere, and the kid was running next to him. I want to be you. I want to be you. And it kind of like, I guess, like hit me how important it is. they were like, I want to go to ice cream. And Mark's like, all right, we'll go eat ice cream if you're me, you know? But just that joy and just wanting to be that, I was like, okay, one of those smack. It's relationships, Jen. Don't worry about the work; it'll get done. Um, he also had a saying that I say a lot. I don't know if you've heard me say it, but and it's so true. Um, every day is orientation. Have you heard me say that?
No, but that's a good one. Yeah.
It's so true, especially, I mean, some of the trainings that we do, um, people are like, oh, they did it again. They didn't use people first language, or they didn't, understand about accessibility. Every day is orientation. We've got to just continually, redo it. Oh, another school didn't know about the youth leadership forum. You know, I mean, sometimes I get mad and I'm like, no, just tell them again. Maybe they didn't hear it the first time, you know. Um, so yeah, I definitely would have to have them. Dr. Borelli, who she was probably the best principal. I mean, I've had a number of principals, but God, she was such an extraordinary principal, and I just feel so lucky to have worked at Southeast. Um, to be there. I remember I had to go to a different school because early in the school year the numbers were down, and they were like, well, at the middle school I was at, they were like, well, we don't have enough students in this department to warrant all you guys. And so I was like, well, I might as well volunteer. Thinking, you know what, I might as well volunteer because I'm the low man on the totem pole anyway. You know, the teachers were like, don't volunteer. And I was like, it's gonna be me anyway. I might as well at least say I volunteered, right? um, but I met her they call it back then they called it, I guess, the cattle call, where all the teachers go that having to get shuffled around, and she was the only principal there. We filled out a card of the 3 places that we would want to go. The next morning, I had a call and said, "Okay, report to the school next day at 7 o'clock or whatever." You know, and wow, some people were telling me you're not gonna like it, and I loved it. Absolutely, best experience ever. I remember the first question she asked me though was, "What do you think of inclusion?" And that was still pretty. I was like, "Well, it's good." I didn't know a whole lot about it. It's good. It's good and bad, which is true. There's good and there's bad in it. And then she kind of cut me off, so I was like, "Oh, great. We're not gonna get along, right?" But yeah, she was amazing. Um, God, Diana, which you was she your first one? Do I remember seeing that as the first one?
She was second.
Oh,
Wanda
okay,
was my first, but yeah,
okay.
amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
everybody that has been on here explains how amazing Diana is to
Mhm.
everybody. I mean, if you meet her, you know. Just what is the
Yeah,
saying? To know her is to love her, and that's
yeah.
true.
She just supportive, encouraging, pushy. I mean, everything. Um, so yeah. Um, and Trojan, of course. I mean, just watching her and how she goes, and gets things done. Yeah, that was one of. I don't think you guys do it in partners anymore, but when I went through, we read the 7 Habits, and one of the things that Diana had us do was um, we had to think about the mentors in our life. Of course, I mean my mom and dad, of course. But I remember we had to do that exercises. Who and then we looked at the characteristics about them. I should have pulled that out. Um, but that was a good exercise.
Good mentors. I think, just about almost everybody on here that's been through partners, as Diana has been one of
Yeah,
their. I mean, but again, look at what she's done. Look at the things she's accomplished.
yeah,
It's amazing. I told somebody I've got, and I'm staring at it like everybody else can see it, but my Diana Award, and that may be one of the greatest things I've ever done, because it's a great award just to win, but because it has her name on it, makes it just that much more. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, and I don't even include some of those young adults. I mean, Lindsay Spoon, Morgan Davis, um, Devin Williams. God, there's so many. Chris Borden. I mean, I could. There's a slew of them. Brett Cunningham. They're just, I mean, living their lives. You know, Jennifer Carter, and all of those guys. If you wanted interviews, would be great
yeah.
just to connect with them.
Well, Lindsay was just on. Did you get to watch that
I
one
didn't
yet?
watch hers.
Yeah, yeah.
I had to watch her.
Lindsay's was awesome. Um, when you talk about the youth, eh, to me, doing the social group, and you tell me what you think, I learn way more from them than they ever do from me,
Yep.
ever.
Yeah, that's what I almost. And they sometimes I walk during our campfire chats, and that is just a time where I mean it's on Zoom every other day, and some of the young adults and people first members are on just hanging out, you know. Um, and the other day I thought, well, I'm going to ask them. I mean, it's hard to ignore the president, that the election's coming up and all that. I didn't go like, who are you voting for? But I asked them, what are issues important to you guys? Because I'm thinking about trying to, I don't know how yet. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I would like to do some sort of youth council. Um, and so I asked them, what are the issues that are important to you guys? And just listening, like you said, just listening to, their answers. I mean, God, if we would just shut up.
Yeah, if we would just listen instead of thinking that we know everything and that we're going to teach them something. And that's it. It took me a little while to do that, but
Yeah,
once you sit around that table with them, I have notebooks full of quotes that
yeah,
they have given me during, because I'll take notes the whole time, and I have just notebook after notebook, full page full of just quotes that you're sitting here thinking, why didn't I think of that? Holy cow,
yeah,
that's brilliant. Um, and
yeah,
we don't take the time to listen.
yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
have it recorded. I told them, I was like, I should have recorded you guys.
And I think that's true of anything, but especially when we're talking about disability advocacy. How do we know
Yeah.
what is their biggest problem? We think we know,
Hmm.
but do we actually know until they tell us?
Yeah.
Which is where, again, let's go back to Crip Camp. I mean, that was what that was about. I remember Judy Heumann saying, one of my favorite quotes in the whole movie is, I would appreciate you not acting like you know what we're talking about when I don't think you appreciate what we're saying, and something along those lines. But and I sit there and think, she
Quit nodding your head like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I sit there and think, man, that's just brilliant. How do they know? You don't know. You've never had to, you probably never even spent a day in a wheelchair. So how do you know what our issues are? By the way, I sent Judy Heumann a message. Her secretary sent me one back and said that she's not doing interviews right now. So I tried. I tried.
Well, right now,
Right now, right. I can hit her up again later.
well, I never forget, after we watched Crip Camp, and you know how Facebook will give you possible friends. She showed up on my possible friends. I didn't hit request, but I was tempted. I was like, she didn't know me. But
she's what an amazing advocate, what an amazing
Oh,
human. I mean,
yeah.
I've got her book. I
Ed
haven't read it yet.
Ed Roberts. There's so many. I mean, I just lost. I can't believe I just forgot her name. Oh, and her book just came out. Oh well,
Well, Judy Human, she just had a book come out too. That's why I
it's
bought
coming out.
it.
I'll have
That's
to look
okay.
it up.
It'll come to you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Christina
so
Mills in California.
what? Say that again.
She her name is Christina Mills. She's the out director for I don't think I can get all the acronym. CF. It's an independent living center um, in California. But I met her when I was first in I mean, just coming into the council. And I don't remember why I think just with the association of YLS and just started, emailing with her and whatnot. But she's short. So, yeah.
So let's go into advice. What is maybe the best piece of advice you've ever received, and or what advice do you give? Let's say young adults who are working on transitioning. What is it that you constantly try to instill in them?
Hmm. Maybe so. One of my big things that I'm on, I guess one of my big kicks um, that I'm on right now is all about expectations, and for others to expect things out of people. I don't think we expect anything out of people with disabilities or enough. Um, but maybe that for other adults is just expect yourself to do it, and then celebrate. I remember Wanda, um, we were talking about YLF, I think, and she said something about, well, they already know how to fly, and I was like, oh, that's true. So I mean, you already know how to fly. I think at YLF maybe we just kind of give them that realization, and just to believe in yourself. Um, find those people, that even that one person that just gives you that, you got this, you know. And so that way you can, okay, what do I do now? I'm stuck, and that one person that tell you, okay, well, okay, what's that next brick we're gonna move, and once you get that brick, we're gonna do the next brick. um so yeah, just I guess believe in yourself.
And that's good advice. I mean, you and I work with parents as much as the students, and I think that's and I don't mean this in a bad way because I'm a parent and I completely understand, but they're usually the biggest boundary that we have around the students because well, we want to protect our kids. That's what we've done our whole lives. But at some point, do we how independent do we want them to be? And sorry, but I'm not going to always be here. So you know.
And but I think that goes for educators too. um I know that when I graduated from college, my dream was to have, don't shoot me, a self contained classroom. And I was going to teach all those cooking skills, those life skills in this self contained class so that they could, be as independent as possible and all that. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? What on earth? You know? Um, yeah. So, I mean, it's like, what happens when a kid's born? Everyone's like, oh, I mean, you can hear the parents, you're going to be president, or you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a lawyer. Oh, wait, you have a disability. I don't know what you're going to do. You know, no, be president, be a doctor, be a lawyer,
Right.
whatever. Be a McDonald's manager, be a McDonald's fry cook. I don't, just I feel for you if someone yells, "We got a bus!" Yeah, then you know if you're at McDonald's, get it? Okay, sorry.
I got it. I got you. I was with you.
I
All right.
tried.
Yeah. Well, I you've been trying to work that cup in the whole time.
Oh, but I've been held. Have you seen that?
I did
I've
see you did
tried to
that.
have it neutral, but
It's
I can
okay.
do this.
It's okay. That's all right.
Cheers, friend.
Uh, to a good season.
That's right.
Yeah.
To a season. What do we? Right?
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
man.
So I that's all I have. Let me say this, Jen. Um, sometimes you have mentors, sometimes you have friends. If you're lucky enough, you have both.
Mm.
Jen Randall, you're both. Um,
Hug, hug you.
if you I I can count on calling you when I need things, no matter what it is.
Except interview.
Yeah. Well, it did take me a while to get the interview. You know how I got the interview?
How?
Aaron Taylor said,
Oh
just
no!
set it up and do it. So that's what I sent you was, hey, 1 o'clock. Here we go. So, but I I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your mentorship. I appreciate as a parent what you've done with YLF and the students that you've worked with, and in this state, just trying to get better transition services, trying to get that is something that is so needed throughout this state, throughout the United States, but throughout this state especially. And for that, let me thank you. We're not there. We've got a long way to go, but
Together.
yeah, that's right. And so for that, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, really, it's everybody. Again, that relationship piece. You know.
Yeah.